Welcome to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast, hosted by Dawn Tura, CEO and President of Sig.
Well, folks, welcome back to the podcast series. I am so excited to have invited to the studio today Kate Seagriff. Now, Kate is the Director of Strategic Sourcing at TripActions. And let me tell you a little bit about Kate. So prior to TripActions, Kate did procurement consulting on behalf of Fortune 500 companies. And she helped to build a procurement analytics as a service offering and did in-house procurement at a rideshare company post-IPO. And now at TripActions, she's helping to scale the business. So Kate, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That's a great introduction and a good recap of my career to date. I think what's been really interesting is starting off at those Fortune 500 companies, those really mature organizations, the IBMs, the Coca-Colas, the KPMGs of the world, and really seeing what makes a company so great and prosperous for, and sometimes 100 plus years, and then being able to build something from the ground up. So being able to see procurement from all those different lenses has really been a lot of fun for me.
Well, I'm sure it is an invaluable experience. So before we get started, I'm going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. And when we return, we're going to hear from our guest, Kate Seagriff of TripActions.
What is Sig University? We are an inclusive, internationally recognized university whose mission is to advance the procurement profession while enabling students to transform their careers through our world-class certifications. Sig University offers industry-recognized certifications programs, each offering a unique set of competencies and skills that sourcing and risk professionals need to be successful. The programs provide advanced training in subjects like strategic sourcing, supplier management, third-party risk management, intelligent automation, and more. Sig University is committed to academic excellence, which is why our students are trained alongside an international cohort, engage in discussion forums, and learn from senior practitioner faculty who leverage their deep industry experience with real-world case studies. Why Sig University? It was created originally at the request of Sig members. We knew there was a lot of training out there, but nothing designed around the ever-evolving skills and competencies that the modern sourcing and risk professional needs. The program was created through collaborating with dozens of industry experts to create a curriculum that is bold, fresh, and applicable to this day and age. If you're looking to advance your knowledge and your career, join us at Sig University.
So Kate, welcome back. So I would love to know a little bit about your personal journey. We know you did Fortune 500 or Fortune 100, Fortune 500 consulting, but what's your education? How did you get to where you are today? Just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I actually studied supply chain and information systems at Penn State University. During my time there, I served as our student body president during a really interesting and unique time during the Sandusky scandal. So that had me working with a bunch of different stakeholders, from administrators, board of trustees members, local politicians, state politicians, everyone in between. And I really learned that I liked juggling a lot of different projects and working with a lot of different people. It kept my day-to-day fun and busy and challenging, of course. So when I was thinking about what career I wanted to go into, consulting made a lot of sense to me. Right? You're navigating multiple businesses, people across the company, different levels of experience, different industries, and dozens of projects at a time, right? So figured pairing my supply chain education with my student government experience, it made sense to go into consulting. So I started doing that at IBM. Had a really, really fun time doing it. And then I was tapped to stand up a procurement analytics as a service offering, as you mentioned, Dawn. And what that means is, integrating IBM Watson, machine learning, technology, cutting edge technology to help increase spend visibility for companies. So building something from the ground up, I found a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in myself and figured maybe it was time to dabble in a smaller company. So I made the jump to Lyft, where I helped stand up the procurement practice there. and then had our public offering, helped our team get to being profitable as a company, our company become profitable. And then I recently joined TripActions, I guess a year ago now, where we're pre-IPO, scaling super fast, have the background of 2 years of a 6-year company being a pandemic, and really navigating how do we survive. So it's been challenging and rewarding, and you're seeing those trends kind of throughout my career to date. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the ride so far.
So tell me, your time at Lyft, is that where you got exposure to TripActions? And then tell us a little bit about what TripActions is. Well, how did you end up there?
Yeah, exactly. So at Lyft, they utilize TripActions as their corporate travel tool. And I've really enjoyed using it on my personal business trips, found a lot of value in the product itself. And then when the opportunity came up to join the TripActions team and to lead the strategic organization, it seemed like a great fit, right? It's a product built for procurement professionals. It combines travel, expense, and payments into one, and being the ability to be at the forefront of helping build the product and seeing the direct impact it has to procurement professionals seemed like a great fit.
Okay, but then, so you said it's a 6-year-old company. You've been there for a year, which means you joined during the pandemic?
I did. Yes, I made the jump during a pandemic, an interesting time, right? Bold move.
Yeah.
But I believed in what the company was doing. So I've seen the articles and the news and read podcast and listened to podcasts about how TripActions really put the customer first, started implementing safety features into the product, helping people know that when they were traveling, what were the rules and regulations of where they were going to and how it would impact their travel experience. So yeah, I saw that they were making really smart business decisions, had really impressive funding rounds, and thought I'd join.
Wow. So you're out of New York City, correct?
I am, yes.
And TripActions is headquartered where?
Palo Alto.
Okay. I thought it was a Silicon Valley child. Yes. Okay. So you've been there a year. And so now you're obviously looking, I mean, this is a forward-looking company and very innovative. So what kind of trends are you seeing at TripActions, or that are you predicting for procurement folks to be aware of now? And folks, we are recording this in early 2022. And so we're at the sort of the hopefully winding down of Omicron and hopefully the increase in business travel. So as we look at those two together, Kate, what do you see as some trends that we're going to see in 2022?
Yeah, we're really thinking about customer costs and control, right? Those are the 3 big things that we're focusing on. We've implemented proactive policies using virtual cards. We've also used purchase cards for our trips, and we're consolidating procurement tools. So what we're seeing across the board as an industry is focusing on the customer cost and controls, and we're really implementing that into our product.
That's it. So you're in the strategic sourcing group at TripActions?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you lead. So tell me, what is it like? How has your business been affected, and how is it recovering? Just, I'm sure we're all curious.
Yeah, sure. So I think the pandemic presented this opportunity to people and companies to pause and reflect and figure out how do we make better, smarter, sounder decisions. And with that, a big piece of it is looking at where we're spending our dollars. Are we investing in the right places? Are there opportunities to optimize? And all of those things together, right, really puts strategic sourcing at the table to help inform and make those decisions. So we're focusing a lot on our technology, right? Our product speaks for itself, and we're practicing what we're preaching by making sure that we have the right technology in-house to be building on top of a really strong foundation. And we really focused on optimizing our spend. So are we choosing the right suppliers that can scale and grow with us? We've signed on over 4,000 customers during the pandemic.
Oh my goodness.
And we need to scale with those customers, right? We have to deliver. So making sure we have the right processes and policies in place too really helps us with that scaling. So it's a mix of focusing on how do we optimize our costs, but also making sure that we're choosing the right suppliers to scale and grow with our business, and making sure that we're having a long-term vision of the partnerships that we're bringing in-house. We plan to be around for a long time. So how do we best do that with the right people?
I love that. So, as you probably know, one of my passions is elevating the entire sourcing function to be seen as strategic as the CFO is seen. And, we saw the meteoric rise of the CFO from going from a, green shaded bean counter to sitting at the right hand of the CEO. And I really think, with the visibility and the impact we have, we should be at the left hand of the CEO. So as we talk about procurement, having a C at the table, really being a capital C, not a small c, but a capital CPO, and having that kind of impact to the organization. Can you tell me about some of the objectives that you think we should focus on to help us achieve this kind of leadership?
Yeah, definitely. And I couldn't agree more with you on that statement of the strategic power that sourcing has and the ability to look across an entire company and blend together the business needs paired with the financial needs, right? The CFO helps determine the budget, set the budget. The business helps decide where they want to spend that budget, and strategic sourcing is in between those two, right? How do you optimize? I keep saying that word, but it's so true, right? How do you stretch those dollars as much as possible and make sure you're investing in the right tools and equipment? And that's done by RFPs, and strategic sourcing leads those RFPs. Right. So I do find that strategic sourcing oftentimes sits in the CFO organization, or it's starting to branch out and have its own team as well. But it does marry those two goals of the financial needs and the business needs really nicely. So what we're doing is we're keeping that in mind, right? Helping gather the business requirements that the departments say they have and they need and what they're trying to solve for, keeping in mind the budget and the financial goals of the company. And then we help strategize and make those two things happen simultaneously. So I agree with you. It makes sense that we have that capital C and sitting right at the table with the rest of the C-suite.
Yeah, I agree. And the way I sort of explain it, because I'm a recovered CPA, is, the difference is that in finance, we set budgets and then we report, we do the financial statements.
Right.
But with procurement being right there, we're seeing the inefficiencies, the stupidity, the redundancy live as it's happening. And so it's sort of like, my analogy has always been like a basketball court. The CFO is sort of looking at the scoreboard, where we're the coach that's on, right on the floor, calling the plays and impacting the plays as they're happening. So we can change the outcome that they're going to see on the scoreboard. And so I just love the strategic impact that we can have. But, COVID-19 has strained a lot of companies, both the supply chains, speed. I mean, just-in-time deliveries has gone out the door. You can't trust, things are going to get transported around the world, or even the last mile to get to you. And risk management has become so much more important. So do you look to digital technologies to help solve some of these issues, or what is your feeling about that?
Yes, 100%. What's so important for strategic sourcing is having that visibility, right? We need to know where we're spending, and you made the reference to the scoreboards. Where's the puck going on the ice? We need to know where we're moving towards and what we're trying to accomplish, and having that visibility to do so is so paramount and pivotal. And yes, completely. We have a lot of different tools, and going back to the TripActions tool itself, right? It gives that visibility into what you're spending on your travel and expense side. You can automate a lot of your work too with policies, preset policies in the tool. So as people travel, helps your AP teams not having to scan every single expense that they receive, right? That's predetermined upfront. So making sure that we're being proactive with our thinking and putting in these policies and processes in place helps us go a really long way to alleviate the admin burden for our teams and helps them spend time on more impactful business activities.
Oh. So can I ask a question? Do you think your governmental experience helps you now to understand how to deal with stakeholders? Because, I mean, part of it is, and I hate to use the word politics and sourcing, but, we're selling our ideas and we're trying to get people to follow us and to agree to new suppliers and to accept these changes. Has that experience, do you think, is that helpful to you in your career?
Yes, very much so. We talked earlier about having strategic sourcing as a key seat at the table, a key decision maker. And that governmental experience ties very well into getting that seat at the table. And also with strategic sourcing in general, right? We've moved from a bit of a tactical and buying environment to being called procurement to being called strategic sourcing. And now you're seeing strategic sourcing organization take on the likes of business development, right? Corporate sponsorships, partnership opportunities, really thinking more long term. So we've migrated from that tactical buying space of quick one-off purchases to really thinking long term. Who do we need to be partnering with to help our company and help elevate us? So yes, completely agree with your statement that the governmental experience has helped understand the goals of various parties and trying to figure out what are the solutions to help meet the majority of the goals that we're trying to accomplish and help present those ideas.
Okay, so our audience, let's assume that most of them have already graduated college and it's too late to go back and get that government experience. If you were to be able to talk to your younger self, what advice would you have given to yourself?
Ooh, a lot of things.
What have you learned? What do you wish you had known back then?
I found a lot of value in business and personally, professionally, that if you really try to understand what the other person's goal and intentions are, rather than being right or wrong, it helps advance a discussion and a conversation, opens the door to a lot more creativity and different ideas. So that's something that I wish I knew very early on, right? It doesn't have to be right or wrong, yes or no, but there's a lot of opportunity in that middle ground to find like-minded goals and work to accomplish them together. So that's something that becomes really helpful no matter what you're doing, right? Just general collaborations to be able to partner with other people and putting that as a priority.
But you bring up a really good point, and it's a lesson that, when I was in consulting, I often coach my teams is we don't have to be right, but what we have to do is listen to our business unit or whoever we're sourcing for and understand how to make them successful. Because at the end of the day, it's really making your clients, your internal clients, your business units, your partners successful, not taking the glory and all the credit, to the sourcing organization, but really, we're successful when we make our clients successful.
Yeah.
And we can't do sourcing to them. It's not like we can put the best agreement in place in our mind, but if they don't want to buy off of it, we're still failing. So I think what you really talk to, and some people call it active listening, but it really is putting the customer first and looking how to strive to make them successful is what I'm hearing. So it's great advice. I didn't start off knowing that either, because being a bean counter, it was black and white. It was like, I would, literally say, well, look at this. It all adds up. And obviously this is the right answer. And it was like, oh, you just because it adds up to me and it's black and white, it doesn't mean it's black and white to you. So I really needed to learn that people side of it, that, just because I build it, they won't come. And I have to encourage them and I have to make sure that it's right for them, not right for me. So it was a hard lesson for me, but I'm sure glad I learned it early on in my career.
Yes. And to build on that too, we've talked about partnering with different stakeholders. And my manager at Lyft gave me such great advice of oftentimes different business units and departments, they have their own goals and their own metrics that they're trying to achieve. And the ability for strategic sourcing to have that cross-company view really helps us keep in mind and focus on what's the best interest of the company. And as much as we can try to corral individuals to keep that as our North Star, we're all operating on the same page and have that same goal in mind. It goes a really long way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So what should we expect next in your career? Where would we see you going in a few years from now?
I plan on enjoying this ride at TripActions for as long as possible. I am finishing up an MBA program at Johns Hopkins right now. So thank you. So getting a lot of great learning experience from that program And then specific to TripActions, we're scaling, we're growing really fast. There's a lot of opportunity here to get that seat at the C-suite table, and I'm pushing for that.
Well, I one of these days, I know I'm going to see those initials after your name. There's no doubt you are a rising star in our industry.
Thank you.
So folks, we are out of time right now, but I just want to thank you, Kate, for joining me in the studio today. Folks, this is Kate Seagriff of TripActions. She's the Director of Strategic Sourcing. So if you don't know Kate, look her up. Make sure you make her part of your network. If you don't know TripActions, look them up, because obviously it's a tool that we all need. And Kate, I just want to thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And I'd love to invite you back later on in your career to show people this is who she was and look at what she's become.
Happy to do so.
Yeah, I would love that. So folks, make sure you listen to the podcast series regularly, and welcome back to the studio anytime. So Kate, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast through iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Want to nominate someone for an interview? Email us at info@sig.org.